Personal pleasure to welcome Soeb Sultan Khan to Harvard and to this conference. Please. Just be careful, it's very narrow.
Okay. Well, hello everyone. Thank you very much, Professor Chen, for the nice introduction. I'm really grateful to the organizers of the conference for giving me this honor, inviting me here to speak to you today. And I know it's especially my friend Rajshekhar who must have engineered it, but I'm grateful to him. I'm a little nervous because my granddaughter has come all the way from New York to listen to me. And I know that my speech will be put under a microscope and a postmortem will be after I have spoken. Actually, when I look back on 63 years of my working life, 25 years at Pakistan Administrative Service Officer, 14 years with UNICEF and UNDP, 12 years with Geneva-based Aga Khan Foundation, and for the last 11 years associated with rural support programs of Pakistan in an honorary capacity. I'm reminded of 40 years ago when I met a visionary. This morning somebody was asking me, one of the students, that how do you get a vision? And I had no vision. My vision was to join the administrative service, and I had got it, and I thought that, well, that was the end of my ambition. And he was also in the Indian civil service, ICS, which was supposed to be the steel framework of the British Empire. But he resigned. And he resigned not because he was against the colonial administration. He resigned, he told me, because he found that they had no answer to rural poverty. And this was when he was serving in Bengal, and famine happened there. And in fact, he wrote at one place that what my sneering friends dismissed as my charisma was an acquired skill, a skill acquired after a long period of apprenticeship under British, Gandhian, and American masters. A skill further sharpened by the study of many successful models in other countries, Germany, Japan, Yugoslavia, China, India, and Israel. I never felt ashamed of long and multiple discipleship. I never pretended to be an original thinker. And what great man he was that when he died, I received a letter from Nobel laureate Professor Yunus. And I quote, "It is not enough to say that he was a great man. He was one of the great human beings of the past century. He was so much ahead of everybody else that he was considered a misfit and not appreciated for his greatness." Why? But we have a lot to discover and a whole lot to learn from him. Dr. Hamid Khan taught me the theory of how to help the subsistence holders, comprising principles which he said he had learned from what happened in the world over centuries and how poor came out of poverty. And he particularly used to mention Raiffeisen, who in 1849 used to, although he himself was a mayor of a small principality in Germany, but he would collect the subsistence holders, the poor, and would say that you are being crushed by three giants. And who were those three giants in 1849 in Germany? the landlord, the money lender, and the shopkeeper. So these three principles, he said, which means that the poor have to fulfill certain obligations before anything can be done for them, which is individually they can't do much. They have to get organized. And not only get organized, but they have to find a competent and honest leader amongst themselves to run the organization. Secondly, capital is power. And unless they generate their own capital through discipline of savings, they will never be financially viable. And thirdly, he would say that you have this innate potential in you to do things better, to get out of the situation that you are in. And like what Michelangelo used to say when his David was praised, that I have done nothing. David was already in the marble. I simply removed the superfluous material. And that's what his belief was, Akhtar Hamid Khan's, that every poor woman, every poor man has that potential. Unfortunately for me, in 1991, a SARC heads of state set up a commission called Independent Commission for Poverty Alleviation. And I had by then completed about 10 years of implementing the Aga Khan Rural Support Program. The AKRSP had only two objectives: that the income of the million people who lived there should be doubled, and there should be also a replicable model developed. And they asked the World Bank that every 5 years they should come and assess the Aga Khan Rural Support Program. In the first assessment after 5 years, the World Bank said that the first 4 years of this program are the missed 4 years of all World Bank funded programs, because the World Bank adopted a blueprint approach, whereas this program had a process approach. So I was very happy that whatever I had learned from Akhtar Hamid Khan was really being endorsed by the bank. And after 10 years when they came and assessed, they said that in real terms, the income of the million people had more than doubled. Now, having this being done by the World Bank, I was then on the global scene. And the commission, the Independent South Asia Commission, of which Abid was also a member, they made an overarching recommendation that these three principles, which they dubbed as social mobilization, that should be the centerpiece for all poverty reduction strategies of South Asian countries. And this recommendation was presented in 1993 at Dhaka to the SARC summit. And I don't know whether the heads of states understood what it was, but they fully endorsed it. And obviously did nothing. But World Bank convened a workshop on that report. And in that workshop, there was a representative from UNDP, New York, and he approached me and asked me that would I be willing to be a senior advisor to a South Asia poverty alleviation program. And I said that, well, there are 6 countries involved besides Pakistan, but I can try, because I knew that I had this theory of development, which has already proved to be effective. And this is why I'm obsessed with social mobilization, because I've seen this happening everywhere, wherever it has been implemented. And the results have been the same. And obviously, for 12 years, I had experienced and witnessed the miracle of social mobilization in northern areas of Pakistan. I remember when I used to go to the villagers and ask them that, look, nothing can be done unless and until you do these obligations you have to fulfill. And they would say, we are so poor. How are we going to save money? How are we going to do this? But we said that we want a collaboration with the program, you have to fulfill these 3 conditions. And I tell you that these micro-investment plans which the people made, the organized communities, it was their plan. No one had imposed it on them. This was grassroots planning. Grassroots planning is not telling the people what outside planners feel is good for the rural poor, but what the poor feel that they can do, and it is good for them. And when in 1994, as Professor Chen mentioned, UNDP New York asked me to take the lessons to northern areas, from northern areas to South Asia, I knew that the problems of the poor are the same wherever they may be. Their handicaps and deprivations are the same. Similarly, the theory of development is equally applicable irrespective of country, religion, caste, or politics. In 8 years of my sojourn under the SAPAP, South Asia Poverty Alleviation Program, through Bangladesh, India, Maldives, Nepal, and Sri Lanka, I did not come across a single community which was unwilling. I also found no dearth of honest and competent local leaders, which I felt was the real social capital of the community. SAPAP undertook demonstration pilots, because that's all that we could do. UNDP didn't have very deep pockets. In Maldives, an atoll of 14,000 population was considered an FFT unit, whereas in India, I was advised to take a demonstration comprising 10 million people. I argued it does not matter how big an area is selected, because, like the Chinese proverb, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. We wasted 1 year in experimenting and adopting a campaign mode, till I went to my friend Venugopal, who was the principal secretary to the Prime Minister, and said that I don't think we'll get anywhere with this approach. And then he found an IAS officer called K. Raju. I brought him to Gilgit to see what communities can do, because the main thing was, how do we convince that the people have potential, the people can do so many things. And that's, after that, I didn't have to argue with anyone. They were totally convinced that what communities can do and what they had achieved. Even in the northern areas, they had tunneled mountains and gone over. So 1995 in India, when I met the groups of women, they were earning no more than 5 rupees a day weeding the farmers' fields. And last time when I was invited by Rajshekhar to go there, I found that they can access as much money as possible. The vice president of the World Bank once asked me is there any country where what you have done in Pakistan can be done? I said, why don't you come with me to Andhra Pradesh? So she came and spent 5 days with me, going to villages. And then she wrote to me, and I quote, I have just returned to Washington and did not want my time to pass on before sending you a note of deep appreciation for making my dream visit to Andhra Pradesh possible. Every time I visit South Asia, I learn and grow as a professional. But the visit to India with you was extraordinarily in many ways. I gained invaluable insights into foundations of poverty alleviation as an economist and a development banker. I feel I also grew a little wiser, perhaps, as a human being. That fire in my belly is definitely back again, and so are the stars in my eyes. It was one of those trips I wished never to end, and felt as if I lived 1,000 lives now that it has ended. I do not know how to thank you enough. Thank you all the same from the bottom of my heart. And I have taken to an area where I'm so happy, Vijay Bharti, she's the one who had brought about this miracle. But ultimate appreciation that I got was really when the Indian Minister for Rural Development, Mr. Jairam Ramesh, in a preface which was of a biography written by an Australian on me, and Mr. Jairam Ramesh said, Shoaib Sultan Khan pioneered the concept through his landmark Aga Khan Rural Support Program in Pakistan. With the support of UNDP, he introduced the concept of poverty reduction through community organizations through South Asia Poverty Alleviation Program in India. The pilot initiative of SEPAP led to a full-fledged program based on the principles of development through community organization under the Society for Elimination of Rural Poverty in Andhra Pradesh. And with support of World Bank, the project has seen the journey of over 10 million organized households from despair to hope, from diffidence to confidence, from subjugation to empowerment in last decade. The spirit of community empowerment has continued to thrive in India since then, and thus has much to benefit from Shoaib Khan's vision and efforts. I know it's too exaggerated, but getting this from the minister, it was really very something which really was most inspiring for me. Thank you very much.